Section 2 of Write It Right. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Write It Right by Ambrose Bierce. Section 2. Calculated for likely. The bad weather is calculated to produce sickness. Calculated implies calculation, design. Can for may. Can I go fishing? He can call on me if he wishes to. Candidate for aspirant. In American politics, one is not a candidate for an office until formally named, nominated for it by a convention or otherwise, as provided by law or custom. So when a man who is moving heaven and earth to procure the nomination protests that he is not a candidate, he tells the truth in order to deceive. Cannot for can. I cannot but go. Say, I can but go. Capable. Men are capable of being flattered. Say, susceptible to flattery. Capable of being refuted. Vulnerable to refutation. Unlike capacity, capability is not passive, but active. We are capable of doing, not of having something done to us. Capacity for ability. A great capacity for work. Capacity is receptive, ability potential. A sponge has capacity for water, the hand ability to squeeze it out. Casket for coffin. A needless euphemism affected by undertakers. Casualties for losses in battle. The essence of casualty is accident, absence of design. Death and wounds in battle are produced otherwise, are expectable and expected, and by the enemy intentional. Chance for opportunity. He had a good chance to succeed. Chin whiskers. The whisker grows on the cheek, not the chin. Chivalrous. The word is popularly used in the Southern States only, and commonly has reference to men's manner towards women. Archaic, stilted, and fantastic. Citizen for civilian. A soldier may be a citizen, but is not a civilian. Claim for affirm. I claim that he is elected. To claim is to assert ownership. Clever for obliging. In this sense the word was once in general use in the United States, but now is seldom heard, and life here is less insupportable. Climb down. In climbing one ascends. Coat for coating. A coat of paint or varnish. If we coat something, we produce a coating, not a coat. Collateral descendant. There can be none. A collateral descendant is not a descendant. Colonel, judge, governor, etc. for Mr. Give a man a title only if it belongs to him, and only while it belongs to him. Combine for combination. The word in this sense has something of the meaning of conspiracy, but there is no justification for it as a noun in any sense. Commence for begin. This is not actually incorrect, but, well, it is a matter of taste. Commencement for termination. A contribution to our noble tongue by its scholastic conservators. Commencement day, being their name for the last day of the collegiate year. It is ingeniously defended on the ground that on that day those on whom degrees are bestowed commence to hold them. Lovely. Commit suicide. Instead of he committed suicide, say he killed himself, or he took his life. For married we do not say committed matrimony. Unfortunately, most of us do say got married, which is almost as bad. For lack of a suitable verb, we sometimes say committed this or that, as the instance of bigamy. For the verb to bigam is a blessing that is still in store for us. Compare with for compare to. He had the immodesty to compare himself with Shakespeare. Nothing necessarily immodest in that. Comparison with may be for observing a difference. Comparison to affirms a similarity. Complected. Anticipatory past participle of the verb to complect. Let us wait for that. Conclude for decide. I concluded to go to town. Having concluded a course of reasoning, implied, I decided to go to town. A decision is supposed to be made at the conclusion of a course of reasoning, but is not the conclusion itself. Conversely, the conclusion of a syllogism is not a decision, but an inference. Connection. In this connection I should like to say a word or two. In connection with this matter. Conscious for aware. The king was conscious of the conspiracy. We are conscious of what we feel, aware of what we know. Consent for assent. He consented to that opinion. To consent is to agree to a proposal. To assent is to agree with a proposition. Conservative for moderate. A conservative estimate, a conservative forecast, a conservative statement, and so on. These and many other abuses of the word are of recent growth in the newspapers and halls of legislation. Having been found to have several meanings, conservative seems to be thought to mean everything. Continually and continuously. It seems that these words should have the same meaning, but in their use by good writers there is a difference. What is done continually is not done all the time, but continuous action is without interruption. A loquacious fellow, who nevertheless finds time to eat and sleep, is continually talking, but a great river flows continuously. Convoy for escort. A man of war acted as convoy to the flotilla. The flotilla is the convoy, the man of war the escort. Couple for two. For two things to be a couple, they must be of one general kind, and their number unimportant to the statement made of them. It would be weak to say, he gave me only one, although he took a couple for himself. Couple expresses indifference to the exact number, as does several. That is true even in the phrase, a married couple, for the number is carried in the adjective and needs no emphasis. Created for first performed. Stage slang. Burbage created the part of Hamlet. What was it that its author did to it? Critically for seriously. He has long been critically ill. A patient is critically ill only at the crisis of his disease. Criticize for condemn or disparage. Criticism is not necessarily censorious. It may approve. Cunning for amusing. Usually said of a child or pet. This is pure Americanese, as is its synonym cute. Curious for odd or singular. To be curious is to have an inquiring mind or mood, curiosity. Custom for habit. Communities have customs, individuals habits, commonly bad ones. Decease for die. Decidedly for very or certainly. It is decidedly cold. Declared for said. To a newspaper reporter no one seems ever to say anything. All declare, like alleged, which see. The word is tiresome exceedingly. Defalcation for default. A defalcation is a cutting off, a subtraction. A default is a failure in duty. Definitely for definitively. It was definitely decided. Definitely means precisely, with exactness. Definitively means finally, conclusively. Deliver. He delivered an oration, or delivered a lecture. Say, he made an oration or gave a lecture. Demean for debase or degrade. He demeaned himself by accepting charity. The word relates not to meanness but to demeanor, conduct, behavior. One may demean oneself with dignity and credit. Demise for death. Usually said of a person of note. Demise means the lapse, as by death, of some authority, distinction, or privilege, which passes to another than the one that held it, as the demise of the crown. Democracy for Democratic party. One could as properly call the Christian Church the Christianity. Depot for station. Railroad depot. A depot is a place of deposit, as a depot of supply for an army. Deprivation for privation. The mendicant showed the effects of deprivation. Deprivation refers to the act of depriving, taking away from. Privation is the state of destitution, of not having. Dilapidated for ruined. Said of a building or other structure, but the word is from the Latin lapis, a stone, and cannot properly be used of any but a stone structure. Directly for immediately. I will come directly means that I will come by the most direct route. Dirt for earth, soil, or gravel. A most disagreeable Americanism, discredited by general and presidential use. Make the dirt fly. Dirt means filth. Distinctly for distinctively. The custom is distinctly Oriental. Distinctly is plainly, distinctively in a way to distinguish one thing from others. Donate for give. Good American, but not good English. Doubtlessly. A doubly adverbial form like illy. Dress for gown. Not so common as it was a few years ago. Dress means the entire costume. Each other for one another. The three looked at each other. That is, each looked at the other, but there were more than one other, so we should say they looked at one another, which means that each looked at another. Of two, say each other; of more than two, one another. Edify for please, or entertain. Edify means to build. It has therefore the same sense of uplift, improvement, usually moral or spiritual. Electrocution. To one having even an elementary knowledge of Latin grammar, this word is no less disgusting, and the thing meant by it is felt to be altogether too good for the word's inventor. Empty for vacant. Say, an empty bottle, but a vacant house. Employé. Good French, but bad English. Say employee. Endorse for approve. To endorse is to write upon the back of, or sign the promissory note of another. It is a commercial word, having insufficient dignity for literary use. You may endorse a check, but you may approve a policy or statement. Endways. A corruption of endwise. Entitled for authorized, privileged. The man is not entitled to draw rations. Say, entitled to rations. Entitled is not to be followed by an infinitive. Episode for occurrence, event, etc. Properly, an episode is a narrative that is a subordinate part of another narrative. An occurrence, considered by itself, is not an episode. Equally as for equally. This is equally as good. Omit as. He was of the same age, and equally as tall. Say, equally tall. Equivalent for equal. My salary is equivalent to yours. Essential for necessary. This solecism is common among the best writers of this country and England. It is essential to go early. Irrigation is essential to cultivation of arid lands, and so forth. One thing is essential to another thing only if it is the essence of it, an important and indispensable part of it, determining its nature, the soul of it. Even for exact. An even dozen. Every for entire, full. The President had every confidence in him. Every for ever. Every now and then. This is nonsense. There can be no such thing as a now and then, nor, of course, a number of now and thens. Now and then is itself bad enough, reversing as it does the sequence of things, but it is idiomatic, and there is no quarrelling with it. But every is here a corruption of ever, meaning repeatedly, continually. Ex-president, ex-convict, and the like. Say former. In England one may say Mr. Roosevelt, sometimes president, though the usage is a trifle archaic. Example for problem. A heritage from the textbooks. An example in arithmetic. An equally bad word for the same thing is sum. Do the sum. For solve the problem. Excessively for exceedingly. The disease is excessively painful. The weather is excessively cold. Anything that is painful at all is excessively so. Even a slight degree or small amount of what is disagreeable or injurious is excessive, that is to say, redundant, superfluous, not required. Executed. The condemned man was executed. He was hanged, or otherwise put to death. It is the sentence that is executed. Executive for Secret. An executive session of a deliberative body is a session for executive business, as distinguished from legislative. It is commonly secret, but a secret session is not necessarily executive. Expect for Believe, or Suppose. I expect he will go. Say, I believe, suppose, or think, he will go, or I expect him to go. Expectorate for Spit. The former word is frequently used, even in laws and ordinances, as a euphemism for the latter. It not only means something entirely different, but to one with a Latin ear it is far more offensive. Experience for Suffer, or undergo. The sinner experienced a change of heart. This will do if said lightly or mockingly. It does not indicate a serious frame of mind in the speaker. Extend for Proffer. He extended an invitation. One does not always hold out an invitation in one's hand. It may be spoken or sent. End of section 2.